Drink it in, man.
Deep left side carry on. Picks on the block. At the 5. At the 2. At the 1 to the end zone. Touchdown, Detroit Lions.
Drink it in, man.
Get up, Stafford throws. It is end zone. Caught! Oh, baby, what a catch! Kenny Galladay, you're a freak! What a catch! Touchdown, Detroit Lions! Cornbread!
I love the Lions! Say it with me! I love the Lions!
Drink it in, man.
Detroit Koolaid, what is going on, everybody? We are back, and we're back on a Monday for another episode of the Fantasy Football Flavor, another little Kool-Aid mix with my man Chuck. Chuck, what's going on, buddy?
What's up, Oakley? How you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm tremendous. I had a few drafts last week. The people seem to really like us chatting and yakking about some fantasy football, so we're back again to do it, man. Thought we'd hit off on kind of a newsworthy item that came through. I mean, everybody's been on their edge of their chairs wondering what the heck's going on with Tyreek Hill. I mean, that offense is crazy, but it's mostly crazy because of Patty Mahomes and Tyreek Hill just taking the top off the D, scoring big touchdowns. You want to catch the people up on kind of where that's at and the news that came out about it?
Sure. From what I've heard and read, they are not going to pursue any charges on him. So I believe the Kansas City Chiefs are going to hang on to him, and he's probably ready for a big year again, with his point guard as a quarterback back there doing his thing.
Oh, man, I thought this was huge news. Like, everybody had just assumed he might not play the whole year. Like, he's going to get just jettisoned from the team. And this news coming out, he probably still has to work through maybe a minor suspension from the NFL. But even if he's gone 4, 6, even 8 games, I still think that bodes well for the Chiefs long term. I mean, we don't condone any of the rumor and innuendo of maybe what he did or what been going on with this guy, but on the football field, he's one of the most electric players I've seen in the last 10 years or so.
Yeah, and the Chiefs don't play around with that stuff. So maybe the Chiefs didn't see anything that concerned them either, because you look at Kareem Hunt, they didn't waste no time just cutting him off. He was an all-pro, and they just said, forget you. We're not going to deal with that.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I haven't really heard their stance on it. It kind of just came out that he's somewhat cleared from the court, so we'll have to see what they do. But, I mean, if they keep this guy around and some of the other speed they added, and real quick off the top, are you totally set on Pat Mahomes as just an absolute stud?
Am I totally set on it? No. Do I think he's going to end up being one? Yeah. I mean, you can see somebody when they're good. Some of those quarterbacks that have a great rookie year or a great second year, you could still have a little doubt in them. You're like, well, but I don't see any in Mahomes right now. That doesn't mean he might not take a step back this year, but he seems like a great young quarterback to me.
Yeah, man, I'm with you. Before I give my take on that, kind of leads me to our next mini segment here. So the next segment I had was the Give Grifka Grief segment. I thought we'd kick it off. He's not on the show. I figured we could beat him up a little bit here on the show. So I'll tie this in with fantasy and what you just said about Patty Mahomes. So, like, for me, I like to try to be on the come up of, like, who's going to be good, like, hey, I'm projecting this guy to be a stud coming out of college, whatever it may be. I remember talking with the Big Hughes and saying, man, why is everybody so high on this Patrick Mahomes? Like, okay, he's got a good arm, big freaking deal. Like, everybody was putting him in like the 3rd round, and then before the draft came, everybody had him in the mid-1st round, and next thing you know, he's going top 10. I'm like, oh man, what a miss, I didn't see it in this guy coming out, even though he had the crazy arm. I thought he was just going to be wild, turn the football over a ton, but I mean, everything I've seen since he entered the league, I think he went to the perfect situation. I mean, I'm super high on this guy now. I mean, the way he throws it around the yard, the weapons he has, I think there's nothing really that can hold him back. Now, are you going to have regression from 50 touchdowns and all that? I think so. So getting to my give Give Grifka grief. Man, I'm going to change the name of that. It's going to be rough.
Right.
Segment, like, so this is what Grifka does. He does what you kind of just did. He'll say, do I think he's going to be a stud? Yes. Am I sold? No. You know why he does that?
Yeah.
Do you know why you just did that? So you can cover your ass on both sides. See, like, if he's really good, you can be like, man, remember when I said, like, he was going to be good? And then if he's, like, trips and breaks his leg or throws 20 picks this year, you're like, man, remember I told you I wasn't fully sold on him? I hate that. I give Grifka crap for that all day, every day. You got to pick one side or the other. So I'm admitting that I thought he wasn't going to be good, but it didn't take me long to see him to go, okay, I was wrong. This guy's a stud. He's going to be an absolute beast for the next 15 years in the league. I mean, talk to me about that. I can't stand when Grifka does that. He does it on almost every player, and then when the guy does throw 50 touchdowns, he pretends like he loved them all along.
Well, I for one will admit I was on the same boat as you.
Yeah.
When this guy came out, I was like, I can't believe that Kansas City just moved that high up to get this guy.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, what are they seeing that I'm not seeing or anybody else is seeing? You know, yeah, he had a cannon for an arm. It still does, but he looked like in his camp, it looks like he was, wild. He wasn't very accurate, and I don't know. He 1 year under Alex Smith, I guess he learned how to be a little accurate, and now he's out there throwing perfect no-look passes. So I don't know.
There's just something about him, like the way he feels the game. Like he just sort of, Grifka's other favorite guy, Brett Favre. He sort of just seems to have fun out there and be able to make every throw. And like I say, he's in the perfect offense. So, yeah, I think having Tyreek Hill is going to be huge. I think that, people are going to be playing the regression game. But I think if we'll talk about it on future shows, but I'm not a big go get a quarterback guy. I'm like the guy who waits as long as possible on quarterbacks in almost every one of my leagues because that seems to be the way you stack up talent. But I think it's going to be hard for people to pass up on Pat Mahomes in the first handful of rounds in a standard league. And then I think Tyreek Hill, people need to keep their ear to the radio on what happens with him because, I mean, if he's back for even 2/3 of the season, you got to get this guy at a good value. He's an absolute freak too.
Oh yeah, he's got speed upon speed upon speed. It's just, you just can't teach that in the NFL when you got that much speed. And, he's got surprisingly really good hands too. When he came out, I didn't think he had that great of hands. And, he came out of nowhere and showed a few good catches last year. And I was like, wow, this guy's really got some nice hands to him.
Yeah. When I watch, it's just like he's faster. He just looks and feels faster than everybody else on the field. And like you say, the routes they give him, the catches he makes on the ball is incredible. And I was not sold on Tyreek Hill until probably this last year. I wanted to see him again, and I went from like half and half to like traded for him in a few leagues, and just hoping he gets his head screwed on straight. So. Do you got any Grifka grief that you want to give today, or are we good with the fact that he just goes half and half on every player?
No, in my perspective, I try not to let the kid come out of me. When I talk about somebody like Mahomes or something, because the kid inside me is like, man, this kid is awesome. He's great. He's the best thing since sliced bread. I love this guy.
Yeah.
But then the general manager in me that runs like fantasy football, I'm like, yeah, he had a good year, and who knows if he's really going to be good or not, but yeah, the kid in me really thinks this guy is going to be something special, but I try not to let him come out too much. But as far as Grifka, I don't know. I think that's probably why he stopped playing fantasy football. Maybe he just doesn't know anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we established that in the first show. He doesn't know. He's become too cool for school for fantasy football. So I'll take that as a good swat on Grifka. I'm sure I'll have more throughout the show. But let's go ahead and do this. Let's take a quick time out and get our sponsor, Anchor Podcast, in here for a couple quick sponsors. And we'll come right back, everybody. And we're going to be talking top fives. We're going to give you our top 5 RBs, wide receivers, and tight ends, as well as talk about what resources you need to be checking out, what websites you need to be going to when you're trying to prep for these drafts. So, Chuck, man, hang tight. We'll be right back. Detroit Koolaid, we are back, and Chuck Dog hit me with the topic, man. He wanted to talk about, like, what kind of resources are you using? What websites are you going to? Like when you're preparing for a draft, either where you're going or what's your strategy. So I'll kick it to you, man. Talk to me about kind of what you do and what gives you the edge over all the other bums in your league.
Well, I can't give you the exact thing I use because then it won't
boy.
give me the edge over them anymore.
I'm trying to
But-
take notes here, man.
Yeah, no. With the internet these days, you can get a printout of the top 50 at each position for fantasy football. But me, I've got a magazine that I've used, like the last show I talked about. I've been using for 25 years, and to me, it's one of the best magazines out there. If you're in a keeper league or a dynasty league, or anything like that, and I'll go ahead and give you the name of it. It's called Fantasy Football Index.
Okay.
And it just goes in depth. It'll give you just about anything you need about dynasty or keeper leagues. But there's one specific thing in there that I really like that I'm not going to let anybody know yet.
All right. Well, good, because I need you to pause. I don't know if I should tell the people to go out and get that or tell you, what the heck are you still doing with magazines, bro? Like you say, everything and anything is online. You can whip up all this data, and you're going to Barnes and Noble and buying the magazine and flipping through. I mean, come on, that was back when we used to use Grifka's website. We were doing that kind of crap. Come on, man.
Nothing feels better, Derek, to me than having a brand new fantasy football magazine sitting in my hands.
Oh my goodness, we're
Being able
losing
to open
viewers.
it up.
We're losing listeners by the moment. But go ahead.
There's got to be some out there that are in the same boat I am. They were like, yes, I love having a brand new fantasy football magazine.
Yeah, like 3 people.
Yeah, well, hey, that's a lot of people.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you're still going with the actual paper copy. Like, that blows my mind. I thought you were going to hit me up with some secretive attack you have, but you're like the Lions now, Matt Pat. You're going old school. You're turning the clock back, saying who needs this thing called the internet? I'm going to go with the straight up 36-page magazine and get me by.
Oh, I at our drafts, I have so much fun with these guys that have these laptops and they got their faces inside these laptops. I'm at the table here talking trash, and they're all just got their faces inside these laptops. I said, you guys are letting this laptop do all your work. You got to do some research yourself, buddy.
Here you are though with your colored tabs on your pages and highlighter, with all your stuff highlighted, like going through, licking your finger every time you got to switch a page, probably.
Yeah, but everybody can see my face. Everybody's hiding behind this laptop because they're embarrassed of what they just picked.
Either embarrassed or they're in the 21st century and they're using technology to their advantage. Oh my goodness. All right. Well, like you say, I'm sure we'll get back to this, but here's my thing, man. When you're talking about resources and how I do it, I don't think this is the other reason I'm going to bag on you for the magazine. I was going to say my advice was going to be, don't use a magazine or don't go to one website, because that really has nothing to do with your league. When you're talking research or how do you figure out what you're doing for your leagues, man, I go to the player projections for that league based on the point scoring, and I break that all down, drop it in a Google sheet, manipulate the data, whatever I got to do. I'm trying to figure out what players score the most points projected by all these experts. And then I'm trying to look over that list and go, okay, I know Jim Smith thinks this guy's projected to do this, but I hate that player. So scratch him or move him down in my mind. But I mean, overall, that's sort of how I do it, is it's really particular to each league, because I can go look at ESPN's top 200. It means nothing to my keeper league that I've been doing with my buddies for 10 years, because our scoring is, half point PPR, and, we got 3 keepers, dynasty rookies, all this stuff that manipulates the lineup. So, their top 200 for a basic 10, 12 teamer, is obsolete to me right off the bat. But I really had just a lot of success with that, with sort of, manipulating numbers, looking at yearly projections, and then using my own football brain to sort of, dissect it from there. And then Fantasy Pros is a crazy website. If you ever want to check them out, if you ever used them in the past, they basically have a whole site that does 10 times more than you could ever do, really. But it gives you a great baseline. You can kind of import leagues. You can do all types of things from there.
So, Derek, are you one of those guys that has their face buried in their laptop when you're at a draft?
Well, here's the other thing, man. Like, I'm gonna give you. I beat you up a little bit. I'm gonna give you props. Like, the most authentic thing you can do is the in-person draft with 10, 12 people in a room, all like, almost that pressure cooker situation of, okay, not only are we in the same room, but when I go on the clock, I'm going to have about 6 people probably hollering at me, and another person, telling me how much time I got left, and you gotta make the pick like a real GM. But I don't do any in-person leagues anymore because all my buddies and everybody, we're so spread out. We have people in other countries doing drafts. We got people in 10 states that are all doing a draft. So, I probably haven't done an in-person draft probably since you guys, when I was in the first few leagues you had me in. So, I'm not like, I don't have a choice but to be buried in the computer. But yeah, man, if I'm showing up to your Kumbaya session where you're all huddled around sitting Indian style, yeah, I got my computer and I'm blocking out all the BS and just using my sheets and drafting the absolute best players, no doubt.
The BS is the best part. The
Well,
best part of drafting.
No, here's the thing. I was telling a buddy today, like, the art of trash talk and the ability to trash talk without people getting all butthurt has gone. Like, there's only a couple buddies that I can sort of like give it back and forth with. That's cool. Everybody else that I'm in these leagues, especially these leagues where like I don't know anybody in the league, you say one thing halfway funny and they just take it completely wrong, and it's just a huge mess. So like, I've actually retired from the trash talking game pretty much because people just can't take it anymore. What are we in, like the what do people always say, those not the activists, but what are we in, like the social justice warrior? Everybody like has a problem with everything. So that's what I feel like fantasy football's become, man.
Nobody else's feelings during fantasy football matter to me.
Yeah,
I'm letting you have it.
That's what I always loved about you, man. You, like, me and you could jaw jack though, and like know we were cool, but you would be ruthless a little bit. Like, I always just come at people where I'm not trying to talk about your mom, I'm not trying to talk about your house you live in or anything. I'm just trying to like totally like make fun of your picks when you go up and you take a quarterback in the second round. Like, I'm trying to kill you when you take a tight end in the second or third round and you think you just got the steal of the draft. Like, that's what I do.
That's the people that don't know what they're doing and they don't know how to trash talk.
Yeah.
Is that they try to make it personal. The only way they can get to you is by trying to make it personal instead of just talking trash about the game and what they just did and who they picked. And, if they can't come up with anything creative, they got to come right at you and attack you personally. And,
no doubt.
Like,
Like I gotta hold myself back, Chuck. When I'm in these leagues we're doing, like, if I don't have anything pressing going on, my natural reaction is to sort of like look around and see who I can poke at. But I get myself in more trouble when I do it, so I kind of just hold back. Like, even this last week, we're in this 32 team auction league, which is just crazy, And people were coming at me going like, "Oh man, you must be cheating! Like, look at your team! Like, you must be making trades with people, your buddies." I'm like, they were just kind of attacking, like calling me like that I had shaved the rules or I had fixed this league. I'm like, okay, first of all, I know 2 people out of 32 in this league. Secondly, I'm like, don't come whining just because you can't compete. Like, they didn't say anything until the draft came around, and now they look at their roster and they look at mine halfway through the draft, and now they're bringing out the JFK theories of why my team's better than theirs. Like, you don't know football and you can't compete, and you just took that player for this auction, so you got to pay people. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't have paid Ricky Seals-Jones $8-10 million a year. Maybe that's why you're making fun of me, because you that blew up your whole team. So like I said, I just kind of shake my head, but it's like, you can really tell when people are at it when they don't say a word, but then when they start realizing it's getting out of hand on them, then they start coming at you. Yeah.
They take it a little too far sometimes, but those are the same guys that say it to you. I call them the cheat sheet guys. They go strictly by this cheat sheet that they get, and they don't use their own brain. Like, yeah, that might be the number 3 wide receiver on this cheat sheet, but who said it's the number 3 receiver for this league?
Right.
No, those are.
Let me ask you a follow up there. So, you know, first of all, if I was at your draft, all I'd be doing is making fun of your magazine all day, first and foremost. And while you'd be yelling at me about my computer. So that'd be the first thing we'd be getting at each other about. Then I want to know, like, so you've got your book and I got my computer and we're looking at our list. You're saying, like, you don't just go down the list. Like, give me 2 seconds on how Chuck sort of determines, like, are you really on draft day, like taking somebody way off the tier just because you like them, or are you pretty much going by the consensus, but you use a little judgment here or there?
You know, you still stick sort of to the consensus, but yeah, I do. I use a lot, especially in a keeper league. I use a lot of judgment, because I don't want a player that's, you know, aging, and I've already got my standard starters that are already there. You know, so yeah, I use a little bit of judgment. Do I go too far off the grid? Usually not until the later rounds. I might take a flyer on somebody. Like I took a flyer a couple of years ago on Tyreek Hill.
Oh, nice.
So that kind of, you know, he wasn't anybody, and I ended up taking him like in the 7th or 8th round. I was like, he might be good. I'll throw him in there.
Well, that's timely based on what we talked about to start with. So, yeah, that's good, man. I got to say, I don't go too far off as well. Like, you know, I'm the draft nerd that's like I do in the normal draft when the NFL draft is on. Like, I'm trying to find values. So, like, I'm going by my list. I'm going by my instincts, but I'm also trying to, like, watch a guy and say, okay, he's there and I like him, but he's not really projected right now. So maybe I can wait another round and a half and get him. And that's my favorite part of drafts, is when I can really wait it out and, you know, get a Kerryon Johnson like a round and a half after, because he hasn't blown up yet, but knowing I would have taken him 2 rounds earlier because I just know he's going to be good, you know?
Yeah, sure. Yep.
So speaking with that, let's transition to our next topic of the day. We want to go top 5 running backs. You want me to go, or you want to take this off top?
I'll take the running backs. That's fine.
Okay, I'm sure the first one is hard for you, but go ahead.
Yeah, it's really hard for me.
Oh boy, here we go.
Well, I'll tell you what. Last year, it was Gurley, but then whatever happened to Gurley this year, I'm not sure. And with the Super Bowl, that kind of throws me off a little bit. So, my number 1 running back for fantasy football is Zeke Elliott.
Here we go.
You know, he gets the ball 20 to 30 times a game, every game. He seems to be around the end zone, or he gets his yardage.
Is Zeke Elliott going to be playing if Jared Jones doesn't pay him, or is he going to be out of the league just sitting on his couch?
Oh, he'll be paying. He'll be playing with somebody. Even if Jared doesn't pay him, he'll be playing with somebody.
I'm talking this year. Like, what if they don't pay him?
Oh.
You think he's going to show up?
Yeah, because he's already at the voluntary OTAs, and
that doesn't mean anything. He's just there because he's hoping to get paid. If they don't pay him by the end of camp, I could see him sitting out.
That means a lot. You don't see too many people that are in contract dispute. You don't see him at any voluntary, training, anything. You don't even see him at the facility lifting weights. All
right, we'll see. I think that's a thing to keep in the back of your head if you're looking at Zeke this year. But who else you got? Who's number 2?
Number 2, I'm going to go with Alvin Kamara. I like Alvin Kamara now that, Mark Ingram's out of there. He's going to be getting the bulk of the load there. I know they signed Latavius Murray.
Yeah.
But, Murray's not as good as Ingram, I don't believe.
We got a 3.
3, I got Gurley.
I'm hating this list. Go ahead.
You're hating this list?
Yeah.
Well, what do you got? Tell me.
Give me 4 or 5, and I'm going to just beat you up with my list.
Beat me up, huh?
Yeah.
See, 4 and 5 is kind of, there's so many people that can land in that area.
I think your magazine's missing a page, by the way. Go ahead.
I haven't even looked at fantasy football this year, so I'm winging this right now.
I'm not
even going to lie to anybody about it. And like my mind's drawing a blank right now. You got me all fired up.
Okay, let me go here.
You go.
Let me fix your list. So you forgot about this guy. He's not only got a name, he's got some quads. His name is Saquon Barkley.
Barkley.
You might want to put him up top when he's the number one fantasy player. He's a absolute freak of nature, and you didn't even have him in your top 4, let alone 5, because your magazine was on a discount rack. So that's first and foremost. He's the number one back. He's the number one player in all fantasy football. I could care less if the Giants are terrible this year. This guy's absolutely ridiculous. See, you sound like Grifka not giving Barkley any love there. Number 2, I got Alvin Kamara. He is getting a chance. Everyone's talking about Latavius Murray. I've hated Latavius Murray for years. Alvin Kamara is going to catch a million balls. He's going to be electric. He's going to probably just be an all-purpose everything. Number 3, I got your boy, Zeke Elliott. I put him at 3. If he is playing, and if he does have his head screwed on straight, he's an absolute freak of nature that's just hard to deal with. He can catch it. He can run it. He's big. He's elusive. He's got a great O-line. They got a good offense. I love him. Christian McCaffrey at 4. This was the guy that I took in his rookie year and in a couple the year after, and I dealt him because I was tired of him never running. He was just catching these 2-yard passes, and he wasn't breaking any big plays. And sure enough, when I kind of dealt him is when he started going off. So he looks like an absolute beast in Carolina, depending on where Cam Newton is at and where that team is at. And I got Lev Bell at 5, man. Everyone forgetting about how good Lev Bell is. He's an absolute and he can do it all. When you're talking top 5 running backs, you want a guy that can catch, a guy that can run, a guy that can score short yardage touchdowns, a guy that can, score from the 50-yard line. I think all 5 of those guys can do that. And like I say, you might as well crumple your list up. I'll send you this via email, and you can actually do a little bit better in your drafts, buddy.
We'll see. We'll see about that running back situation you got going on there.
All right. So since I'm on a roll, and because you got to go Google the top 5 receivers, you want me to go?
No, I'll go. I got him.
Okay. Let's see what you got. You got to step your game up here.
All right. I'll go with number 1 for me is DeAndre Hopkins.
D-Hop.
D-Hop is just a beast. Yeah. He put the ball. He said he doesn't even like a ball perfect to him. He wants the ball out of his reach somewhere else so he can go up and get it. So people can take their cameras out and start shooting.
And real quick, when you say he's a beast, Hop doesn't even look like a beast really to me. He's just like a regular dude, but he's unguardable. He's so shifty and he catches everything. He's incredible, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And then number 2 for me, I'll go with Mike Thomas from New Orleans. The guy catches, 100 balls a year. I guess the only thing I didn't like about Mike Thomas is that there are some games where he'll disappear. He'll have 3 or 4 games where he's catching, 10 to 15 balls a game, and then you don't see him for a couple games. But by the end of the year, he's usually about the top 2 receiver in stats. 3, I'm going to go with Julio Jones, the beast.
Again, I think you're missing a page, but go ahead.
All right. Number 4, I'm going to go with Beckham.
Okay.
I like Beckham out there. A lot of people don't really care for the quarterback out there, but I think Odell's going to be a beast out in Cleveland. And then number 5, it's kind of a toss-up for me, but I'll go with Devontae Adams. I'm going to leave what's his name out. I'm going to leave Brown out. I'm going with Devontae Adams. I think Devontae Adams is going to have a really good year.
Okay, well, thank you for that, Chuck. And everybody, we're going to give Chuck a half a pass today because he's redoing his whole house, his whole living room. So he doesn't have his magazine yet. He's not up to speed. It's episode 2. But, Chuck, here's what I'm doing with your list. You hear this? This is me taking this list and crumpling it up right there, throwing it in the trash.
It sounded like you were laminating it.
No, that's a straight rip right here. Hold on. Let me grab your running back list, too. There goes that. Now hold on. Let me break down receivers for you. First of all,
go ahead.
I thought I kicked Grifka off the show, but I'm getting Grifka takes out of you. Like, the number one receiver in the game in fantasy football right now is Odell. He's in Cleveland. He's got Bake. He's got his boy Jarvis. Like, this guy was always the most freakish, the most ridiculous athlete at receiver, and now he's in the perfect situation. He's number one. Number two, I got D-Hop. We already talked about him. I love Deshaun Watson. You got to put him at 2. Number 3, Michael Thomas. You said he disappears for games. You go pull up his stats. The guy gets more targets and more looks than anybody ever. Like, I love that he's incredible because I remember taking him in these crazy mock drafts before the NFL draft. I was getting him in like the 4th round, and I was like, oh, man, this guy could be good. And he's just outkicked his coverage, no doubt about it. Number 4. Go ahead.
I had him on I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I had him on my team last year. And if you go back and look at the actual game stats, you'll see there's like 3 games almost in a row where he was non-existent. He might have had the targets, but he did not make any of those catches.
Well, maybe, but he's also led the league in receiving the last 2 or 3 years in regards to catches. So he's obviously doing stuff those other 3 games that you're ignoring. The other, 14, he's probably an absolute stud. I
think you have partial hearing. I think you might have some partial hearing because I said that in the beginning. I said he usually ends up the year with top 2 receivers in stats. I said the only problem I didn't like about him is that he disappears for a couple games.
Okay, yeah, I heard that. And the reason I'm beating you up is because you're going Grifka on me and you're doing the double take again, the one side versus the other, and everybody doesn't show up every once in a while. What's he supposed to have? 16 games plus his bye week? Supposed to be incredible? I mean, yeah. He's the only player on the outside.
That's what he's getting paid for.
He's got probably 4 guys on him on every play. So let me finish my list, and we get to tight ends. We keep this thing moving. You didn't even bring up this guy. He's number 4 on my list because, again, I skew more towards dynasty, more towards youth, like you talked about earlier. Give me Juju at 4. The Juju for Juju is going to be incredible this year. He's going to be a target monster. Everybody says he's going to get more coverage. It's not going to matter. Like, I love Ben Roethlisberger. He just chucks it up and makes incredible throws all day. And then I had to put Julio at 5. I mean, I think he is tailing off towards the end of his career, but when you look at him in a jersey, he's a specimen. He catches a ton of balls and a ton of yards. He just gets ignored in the red zone. I don't know why. But he just doesn't score enough touchdowns for me, so I had to drop him at 5, like you said. AB didn't make my list. I kept Devontae off the list, 1, because we talked about it last week that, yeah, he's been better and he scored a lot of touchdowns and whatnot, but I haven't seen the consistency, and he's on the Green Bay Packers, so that's obviously going to slide you down about 4 slots on my list, and I hope he breaks his leg in week 3. So.
Hey, Nick, this is fantasy football. This isn't real football. So when I put him in the top 5, it's because of those stats and numbers that he had.
Hey, man, like you said, we got to use my football brain, and my heart still comes into it sometimes. So if I'm looking at Juju, Julio, and Devontae, you can know which one's not going to be on my team.
I have no problem with putting Juju. Juju was at the tip of my tongue, but I just thought those other guys were just a tad bit better in fantasy football.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let me take the lead on tight ends. We'll keep moving our way through this. Again, go ask Jeeves on who the top 5 tight ends are, and I'll be back to you in a minute with maybe you can find the back part of this magazine that you're looking at. So
it's not out yet. That's my problem.
That's the other problem with the magazine. You're like waiting for Barnes and Noble to get a new shipment in. I've been tooling out rankings for 3 months.
It's like Christmas, Derek.
Oh my gosh. And you set the podcast back like a decade. But the people might love that. We'll have to see. Let's see the feedback. So tight ends, man, again, tight ends for me are tough. Like, you either take one high and it works out, or you take one high and it hurts your team big time, depending on who you get and what they produce. So I don't know where all these guys fit in, and they were hard to sort of rank for me. But one, just based on production, offense, all the stuff, Travis Kelce had to go up top for me. Love that offense with Pat Mahomes, and this guy, every time I watch him, I've had him on a few of my teams, and man, he makes a huge difference. There's lots of weeks where he's getting a hundy and a touchdown. There's lots of weeks where he's going for 150 and 2, and then his bad weeks are like 60, 70 yards, which is like usually way better than all the other tight ends out there. So Kelce up top. I got Ertz at number 2. The reason Ertz went at 2 for me is because I watched some Philly games, and Carson Wentz and even Nick Foles, oh my gosh, felt like every drop back, all they do is throw to Zach Ertz, man. It's like ridiculous. I didn't know if there's anybody else out on the field. So just based on his production, I know they have Goddard there who I like as well, but every time Ertz is in the game and Wentz in the game, it's just like pitch and catch all day. Kittle at 3, he blew up last year. A lot of people have him up top, but he's got to show me a little bit more. He is a pretty up-and-coming football player as long as Jimmy G returns to form. This was surprising last 2 a little bit. I kind of shook up the rankings a little bit. I moved my boy David Njoku all the way up to 4. He hasn't been very consistent, but whenever I see him too, he just looks like an absolute monster in the jersey. He's got every tool that you'd want. They just need to get him the football a little bit more, and he needs to be a little more explosive. So I look for him to take a step up. And then Ingram over in with the Giants, I feel like he's basically just a receiver called a tight end, so I'd expect him to get featured more if he can stay healthy and to really produce this year when it comes to tight ends.
All right, yeah. Well, there, I won't knock that list too bad. Like I said, they're tight ends. You pretty much
another Griff could take from you. Oh, it's tight ends. Who cares?
Well, no, it's not that I don't care. After you get past the top 3, I mean, the rest of them, they'll get you some production, but they're not like wide receiver points after the top 3. So, I like Kelsey at 1, Ertz at 2, Kittle at 3. I like Ingram at 4, and then my 5th one is Jared Cook.
Yeah,
I like Jared Cook, and now that he's with New Orleans with a real quarterback, the guy might really have a big time year.
Yeah, see, he's been better than expected the last couple of years out in like Oakland, and where was he before? Like Packers or something, but he's pretty old, man. I just looked him up. He's like 33 plus years old, I think now. Like that's getting up there for tight ends.
It is, but if you're looking for a tight end next year, I think Drew Brees loves. He made Watson look good out there, so I think Cook will have a great year out there.
Yeah, I think it's a 1 year. If you need a 1 year guy to put you over the top, you can get him later. I just moved those younger guys up, hoping that you're like kind of swinging for the fences. So, young guy with more catching ability and Njoku and Ingram. Well, Cook, like you say, I bet Cook will be in that like 800 yards and a bunch of touchdowns. So he's probably gonna be good out there. So Grifka, that segment was for you, man. Tight ends, they're impactful in the real game. We love them in fantasy. I know Chuck said after the first 3, who cares? I actually think this is a deeper tight end class this year in regards to depth. There's probably about 8 to 10 guys that I think can make an impact. And
I'll agree with that.
And like I say, it's all about where you get them. Like how long can you wait? What's your scoring system like? All that type of stuff. So, hey man, we rolled through some top 5s. I had to keep you in check, put a little fantasy flavor in your ear in this episode. I mean, you got anything else, or we just get up out of here for the show?
Yeah, you don't want to do QBs?
I thought we.
You want to pass up on it?
Yeah, let's come back with QBs. We'll hit up. Maybe we might have to do a top 10 QBs because, like I say, there's 32 in the league. I feel like QBs you can go a little bit deeper, and we'll go deeper obviously than top 5 as we kind of get closer to draft season once Chuck has his magazine.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's save quarterbacks. The other thing I thought we'd save is I'm trying to get you set up, everybody out there. There's been a couple things I've been touting, kind of promoting. They're not cutting me any check on the backside, but if you guys are really crazy about fantasy football and really want to do a unique league, go to realitysportsonline.com. This is a website. It's probably been out for 5-6 years. It's a contract league where you actually give players like 2 years, $11.5 million bucks, and you draft rookies. You balance a budget, a real NFL budget, and like say, oh man, I don't got time for that. Like, it's simple. They made it really easy. It's the most fun I have in fantasy. Like all these stupid ESPN and Yahoo leagues are a waste of my time now. Reality Sports Online is where it's at. It challenges you. You go a lot deeper, which means you have a lot more trades. So if you have never heard about them, check that out. And then I'm trying to get Chuck Dog up on the Draft app. Simple app you can get on your iPhone. You can do best ball drafts, which are drafts where you get to enjoy the draft process, which we all love. Draft day is pretty much the most fun day in fantasy football. You get to pick your guys, but then you just don't do anything the rest of the year. You let your roster, they put your highest scorers in. You just got to sort of manage, make sure you don't have people on the same bye week when you draft, or making sure you're not drafting a bunch of injured guys. But we're going to get Chuck up to speed on that. And then they let you do $1 drafts, and it's slow too. So you can do 8 hours a pick. We'll do some fast ones here on the show where, I think it's 20 seconds, 30 seconds a pick. We'll rumble through a 10-teamer or something here at some point. But I thought we'd save the quarterbacks and maybe some of that stuff for future shows.
Sounds good to me.
Cool, man. Well, I thought this was a fun show. We, like I say, we are pretty far out, but hey, man, it's going to be middle June, end of June. A lot of leagues are kind of starting in that July, August time frame. So we got to get the people the info, man. We got to get them rolling. And there's nothing more I like than beating you up once a week on Mondays here, showing who the superior football mind is. So I'm game to be same place, same time next week, buddy.
Yeah, Derek, I think next week I'll probably end up hurting your pride. You don't want that.
Well, I'm waiting for you to bring the heavy lumber, but I mean, we'll see what happens. So, like I say, I got it's Monday here. I got some drafts this week, some of those crazy deep leagues, and like I say, just trying to put my teams together and have some fun. So I know you'll be dominating your keeper league when that comes around. Probably, you guys probably draft, in August towards camp, huh?
Yeah, we keep it as late as possible. That way we get all the injuries and stuff and try to see who's starting where and who's going where.
Another rookie move by Chuck, man. That's what the novices do, man. They wait till all the info's out. That's a Grifka move. Grifka waits for all the info, and then he wants to tell you. You know what I do? I draft after Christmas, and then I tell you what's going on.
I bet you do. That's the only way you can win, because nobody else knows yet.
Well, hey, man, I think we helped the people. The people will know more after listening to the show. I think we had a bunch of fun. So everybody check us out, Detroit_Koolaid on Twitter. Make sure you listen, share this with a friend. And I don't know if it's fortunately or unfortunately, but I'll be back with Grifka on Wednesday and Friday for the Detroit Koolaid Cast. We'll be talking all things Lions, and Chuck will be reading up about the Dallas Cowboys, I'm sure.
Yes. Thank you, Kool-Aid.
Yeah, man. We'll catch you next week. Thank you, everybody. We're going to get up out of here. Take care.
Pack the bag, start the plane. This game is over. It is over. What a comeback by the Lions.
Drink it in, man.